more than 3 decades, the Menendez brothers may be getting another day in court after a Los Angeles judge decided that the Menendez brothers will be granted a resentencing hearing. Now, recent changes in California law and evolving views on how the justice system treats young offenders has brought the brothers' case back into the spotlight. So let's take a look at exactly what the judge decided, why this hearing is even happening now, and what it could mean for 2 of the most infamous inmates in the country. To understand why this resentencing hearing matters, we need to go back to the beginning. In August of 1989, Jose and Mary Kitty Menendez were brutally shot and killed in their Beverly Hills mansion. Their sons, Lyle and Erik Menendez, initially claimed that they had discovered the crime scene, but soon they became suspects themselves. The case gained national attention when the brothers were eventually arrested and then charged with the murders. During their first trial, the Menendez brothers admitted to killing their parents, but claimed they did so out of fear, citing years of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse at the hands of their father. The prosecution, however, argued that the killings were driven by greed and a desire to inherit the family's wealth. The jury in their first trial could not agree. They couldn't reach a unanimous verdict, resulting in a mistrial. But after a second trial, where the defense was not allowed to present as much evidence about the alleged abuse, both the brothers were convicted of first-degree murder, and that was in 1996, and they were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That was almost 30 years ago. So why are we revisiting this case now? Well, in the decades since the Menendez brothers were sentenced, both the legal system and societal attitudes around youth trauma and accountability have evolved significantly. One of the biggest changes comes from a shift in how the justice system views young adults who commit serious crimes. In California, new legislation such as Senate Bill 1391 have expanded opportunities for resentencing individuals who were under the age of 26 at the time of their offenses. These laws are grounded in modern neuroscience, which shows that brain development continues into the mid-20s, or in my case, hopefully mid-50s, particularly in areas related to impulse control, decision-making, and understanding consequences. I'm still working on all 3 of those. Lyle was 21 and Erik was just 18 when they killed their parents, which now places them within the range of offenders considered to have diminished culpability due to their age at the time. Additionally, there's a growing recognition of how trauma and abuse, like what the Menendez brothers alleged during their trial, how that can impact behavior, especially in younger individuals. These legal and psychological developments don't erase the crime, but they do provide a new framework for evaluating whether a life without parole sentence is still appropriate. And I should probably hit pause here and say this. Part of the attention on this case and the opportunity for the brothers to get another shot at resentencing has to do with media coverage. Their original Trial 1 and Trial 2 were closely followed in the media long before the internet gave us the type of access that we have to trials these days. But the fascination with murder in a ritzy zip code is much older than the internet. But that was the old days. And on top of that, there was recently a Netflix special, a miniseries that documented their story. And while it wasn't like grossly sympathetic, it certainly shone a light on their current situation. And it also highlighted some of the music of disgraced Grammy-winning duo Milli Vanilli, which I'm only pointing out to make sure that I am keeping you on your toes. All of which taken together is likely why previous LA County District Attorney George Gascon, actually probably pronounced Gascon, recommended a resentencing. His successor, however, Nathan Hochman, disagreed and withdrew the recommendation, which is what led to the hearing last Friday. Hochman argued that the brothers have not fully accepted responsibility for the 1989 murders of their parents. He presented arguments that the Menendez brothers continue to misrepresent their motives, maintaining claims of self-defense due to alleged abuse, which he describes as self-serving lies. Of course he would. He contends that their failure to acknowledge these falsehoods and demonstrate genuine remorse indicates a lack of rehabilitation and poses an unreasonable risk to the public. After hours of argument and hearing from the prosecution and from the defense, the judge rules that both Lyle and Erik are eligible for a resentencing hearing under California's updated laws on youthful offenders. Now, this new decision doesn't guarantee a reduced sentence, far from it, but it opens the door for the brothers to argue that their life terms should be revisited. And certainly, if the judge didn't want to consider reducing their sentences, the judge could have just said,
"No, we're not going to have a hearing."
However, granting a resentencing hearing is not appealable, but denying a request for a resentencing hearing is. So if you're the judge, when in doubt, just let them argue it out in court. This is one of the reasons that people make fun of the legal system, because what happened last week was an argument over whether they could have an argument about resentencing. It was the argument before the argument. The Menendez brothers will have the opportunity to return to court and present new evidence in support of a reduced sentence. This process won't revisit their guilt or their innocence. Instead, it focuses solely on whether their punishment should be reconsidered in light of their ages at the time of the crimes, their personal histories, and their conduct over the past 3 decades in prison. At the hearing, their legal team will likely bring forward psychological evaluations, evidence of rehabilitation, and testimony about the abuse that they endured while they were growing up. Prosecution, on the other hand, will have a chance to argue that the original life without parole sentences remain justified given the severity and premeditation of the crimes. The judge will weigh these arguments and decide whether the brothers should receive new sentences that include the possibility of parole. This marks a major development in a case that many thought was closed forever. What happens next could reshape not only the fate of Lyle and Erik Menendez, but also broader discussions that all of us are going to have around youth, trauma, and justice. The brothers' resentencing hearings are scheduled for later this week. Resentencing, of course, is not their only path to freedom, as they have also each filed habeas corpus petitions introducing new evidence that was not used in the trial in which they were convicted. Governor Gavin Newsom has also directed the parole board to assess whether the brothers should be granted clemency. That's what we call it when a governor pardons someone. Do you believe the brothers have paid their debt to society? Should they be resentenced? Released? Drop your pro se opinion down below in the comments and let me know what you think. And don't forget, while you're down there, to lawyer up with me, America's attorney, by hitting that subscribe button. I'll be back soon with another legal breakdown, and you don't want to miss it. See ya! In California, new legislation such as, legislation, all of which taking it, all